Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
The slightest move will send a bullet crashing through your stiff British spine.
This is episode 124, recorded April 24th, 2022.
Gruesome Magazine.
That was so good.
I got to do that again. Hold on just a second.
Gruesome Magazine.
Didn't think it would ever end.
That was very good. I pushed the wrong button again. Hi, I'm your host, Jeff Mohr. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time in 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monster, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history.
Easy for you to say.
Barely. Decades of Horror, the classic era, is partnering with Play Now Media, and they are now showing our podcast, The Classic Era, on 3 of their channels: the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, the Classic Horror Movie Channel, and the Wicked Horror TV Channel. Lots of good stuff there. And in fact, today's topic is on the Classic Horror Movie Channel, so you can check it out there. It's available on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, and their online website. So with me this week are my incredible co-hosts. First up is Whitney Collazo, an accomplished artist, makeup artist, and writer. Whitney, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
I'm good. You don't sound ice cream happy.
Oh, I was ice cream happy. I'm content. I'm just chill now.
Oh,
no
I see.
Pun intended.
All right. Also with us is Chad Hunt, co-host of Decades of Horror, the 1970s and the 1980s, comic book artist and writer, director with Wreak Havoc Productions, etc. How you doing, Chad?
Oh boy, I'm ice cream happy, Jeff.
Did you have ice cream this afternoon too?
I don't think so.
Also with us is Daphne, the awesome, stupendous, likable as hell. Daphne, how you doing?
I am also super yummy, full of yummy ice cream.
No sugar
It's the way
crashes.
to be.
Yep.
No sugar crashes. I'm gonna keep an eye on.
Okay. I have coffee too.
Oh, okay.
I'm all hopped
All
up
right.
on Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. Little
So on this
baby.
podcast, we start out by giving some basic details of the movie, and then we give some first impressions, and then take off down the road. Now, I'm going to warn everybody, this is a movie from 1932, very politically incorrect, very much of the time. So, we know that, but I think it's worth talking about. So I don't think we'll sidestep any of that stuff, but just to warn you.
It's there.
Just like a whole lot of other stuff is there.
So our movie is, I did that. No, our movie this episode is The Mask of Fu Manchu from 1932, directed by Charles Brabin, written by Irene Kuhn, Edgar Allan Wolfe, and John Willard, based on a story or a novel by Sax Rohmer. I think it was actually serialized at first. Cast includes Boris Karloff, Karen Morley, Charles Starrett, and Jean Herschel. The production company is Cosmopolitan Productions for MGM, and it says controlled by Lowe's Incorporated. I think that might be from when theater chains owned studios. It was filmed at the MGM studios in Culver City, California, from August 6th to October 21st, 1932. The release date was November 5th, 1932. The budget was estimated at $327,627, and the box office around 1.1 million.
That's a nice return.
Not bad, not great, but not bad. In this movie, Englishmen race to find the tomb of Genghis Khan before the sinister Fu Manchu does. All right, Chad,
Yes?
you ready for the taglines?
No?
You get, instead of ice cream, you get taglines. So,
Dang it. All right. Okay. First tagline is the Frankenstein of the Orient. That is so misleading, it's not even funny. The Frankenstein
other than Boris
of the
Karloff,
Orient.
I mean, there's no.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea what guys 100 years ago were talking about in marketing for some of these taglines. They're dead now anyway. All right. A new Fu Manchu. That's just rhyming like a SOB on crack right there. A new Fu Manchu.
Well, there was a silent version, I believe, or a couple of silent ones, maybe.
This can't be a tagline. Important. Do not confuse this picture with previous Fu Manchu productions. This is a new Fu, in quotations, in a new story. And okay.
Is this where Joe Bob Briggs got his whole Fu routine?
Maybe.
The new Fu. Okay.
The thing about Fu Manchu is... No, I'm not. Do I really have to read this last one? Okay. No woman, and I mean no woman, was safe from the desire of those almond eyes.
Yeah, so remember what we said about politically incorrect.
Crickets. And you made me read it.
Yeah, I did.
Now I'm the most hated man on YouTube.
So, yeah, Orient.
I wasn't already.
Almond eyes, so...
Oh, boy.
Anyway, let's take a look at...
I'm so full of self-loathing right now. It's ridiculous.
There's a poster. Kind of okay. I don't usually like posters with pictures in them, but
I like the yellow. I mean, I really like the gold color.
The pattern on there.
Mm-hmm.
Or design. And then we have this one.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't look like Boris Karloff or Myrna.
No, not at all.
So glad to see that still going on back then. So I also had this one, which is, we get the landscape version. And that is
like
the cover of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like circa 1960 or so.
Looks like Lee Van Cleef.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Okay. Now, did I lose any other ones? I don't think I did. All right. Let's get into first impressions. And this is Chad's pick. So, Chad.
Don't hold it
First
against
impressions. Had you seen this before?
I had never seen it before, but I was very familiar with the character of Fu Manchu from the Master of Kung Fu comics from the 70s and 80s, where they retconned it to where the Mandarin was his father, but in those comics, Shang-Chi's father was Fu Manchu, and it was such a great series. Wasn't as stereotypical as this movie was, but it was written more like an espionage spy comic, where Fu Manchu was wanted his son to take over his empire and this and that, but he refused. Instead, he went and fought against Fu Manchu, so they butted heads a lot of times, and it was just really cool art, really cool, like spy thrillers meet Bruce Lee type of comics. Very cinematic, the way it was back then. So, and I'd always heard of this movie, but never really had an opportunity to see it anywhere or anything. So, as soon as it became available on the Classic Horror Movie channel, I said, well, let's do this, and I figured and heard things from the time that, how there were some stereotypes and just some not so savory stuff in there, but I watched it. It's a little over an hour long, and it's to me, it's a really good adventure story. It's sort of it reminded me a lot of the old serials, back then in the 40s and stuff, where they had all these cool cliffhangers and death traps and stuff like that. And they had the cool hero and the heroine and just it has some really cool stuff in it. I liked it. And it, like I said, it almost reminded me of that. And so despite all the sort of things that we don't look at today as being very politically correct or whatever, I enjoyed this. It was just a rollicking adventure movie. And so, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. Daphne, how about you? Have you ever seen this before?
No, I hadn't seen it before, and I like Chad said, I knew it existed, and I knew it had Boris Karloff in it, and I knew it had Myrna Loy in it, who I may have mentioned I like from The Thin Man, but and I used to have a book of costumes from the 20s and 30s, and I love that style and the beautiful costumes. And I had a picture of her in some of the costumes she wore here. That's beautiful drape, which was distracting to me when I was watching it because I thought it was so beautiful. But I hadn't seen it. From looking at the ads for it, I was pretty sure it probably had racism and colonialism and stuff like that from our past. But like Chad said, but no, I hadn't seen it. So it was good to see. A pre-code. I like the pre-code movies, and I don't want censorship. I think it's good that we keep that stuff so we don't forget. And but yeah, I thought it was a good adventure story for sure. I laughed a lot in it with some stuff like the James Bond type perils that our heroes had to get out of. And I thought the guy tiptoeing across the crocodiles was hilarious. So it was definitely, I thought, a fun adventure movie. That part of it for sure. It's hard to watch for those things we've talked about, but the story and the adventure story, and Boris Karloff clearly was having a lot of fun, and I loved hearing his voice. And it seems like something that you need to see. You need to see these older movies, these horror movies. So I'm glad I saw it.
Okay. Whitney, how about you?
I feel like Chad and Daphne have said a lot of, what I have to agree with what they're saying. I mean, yes, first of all, I have never seen this movie. I just remember hearing that Boris Karloff had portrayed this character, the aesthetic, of this origin, and just seeing something placed with, that's not like, I guess you guys said, echoing on political correctness. It's just something that sucks you in. Like you guys said, it's got adventure to it. There's aesthetics that are just wild, just as wild as the adventure is. It's, I think that's all I can say, because you guys have summed it up pretty well.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
Oh, there'll be plenty of chances to
Yeah.
slip in here. Well, I'm going to agree with what you guys said in terms of the the time. And I mean, there's a lot of talk about the yellow peril and the Oriental mind or something, and then Fu Manchu's goal has a conspiracy to take over the world from the white race, to eliminate the white race or something, and that was a real thing back then. I'm not a historian or anything. I just a little bit of reading about that, and there was a fair amount of laws in place that showed the fear of the area. And once again, like a lot of things, we've got Caucasian playing the Asian characters in Myrna Loy and Boris Karloff. But this movie has a lot of things going for it. There's a lot of cool stuff in here if you can get past that. So yeah, it's got a stereotype plot. Apparently, Sax Rohmer's most of those Fu Manchu books were all about conspiracies against the evil white people by the yellow peril, and that was kind of the way it was. Some of the other ones like that, I was thinking Charlie Chan and Mr. Moto, they were more like they were good guys, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Moto was kind of a spy, and Charlie Chan was a renowned detective that solved cases. So this one is a little bit different in that area. So I enjoyed it, and I have I belong to a Facebook group that's about pre-code actors and actresses in movies, and Myrna Loy is a very common post, pictures of her, and I think between this movie and seeing her there, I have fallen in love with her. I got to go back and watch the Thin Man movies. Plus, she's got a lot of other good stuff. So anyway, yeah, and we do have a woman who figures everything out, right?
Yeah.
She's the one nobody will listen to that knows it. She gets what's going on. Okay. So let's take, and the other thing is, I'm really glad that Karloff they didn't go with like trying to do a Chinese accent or anything. He's pretty much just talking the way he normally talks. Although it was a bit of a lisp, but
yeah, that's the thing that I noticed about his accent was there was a little bit of a lisp, and when I hear that lisp, it coming from like listening to some people that speak Spanish, it made me think it sounds a little bit like a Spaniard, like speaking English. So it was it was interesting, like hearing his voice. I mean, his voice is always something that we want to hear. It's and so I'm glad that with that prominent voice, we just heard the authenticity of it for the most part. I just thought I'm again, yeah, like you said, I'm glad I didn't really hear something manipulated differently.
Well, and the whole, just to give a little more background to the plot, Fu Manchu wants to get this sword and mask of Genghis Khan from his tomb that's going to turn him into Genghis Khan, I guess, or give him the power of Genghis Khan. And these British guys know about it, so they try to get to the tomb first, and they do, and they get the mask and the sword. And so Fu Manchu is like kidnapping people and trying to torture them to tell them where it is, and nobody will tell them. So finally they grab the one guy's daughter, and then they gives them I think he keeps calling it an interesting serum that he gives the one guy.
Yeah, and the fact that every time he had to make it, somebody dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that they have control over the one character. So just to give a little background, so they have the sword. Fu Manchu's trying to get it, and he's going to dominate the world if he gets it, I guess, is the idea. So here's a couple of shots of Boris Karloff, and I still don't know what the heck was going on in that bottom picture.
That's where they first introduced the character in the movie. You got this big exaggerated view of him through this oddball mirror, funhouse mirror looking thing.
Mm-hmm. Is that when you first see the electric machine too? I can't remember if this is when he kind of uses it to make the test.
Well, this is the first time he's shown on screen, I think, and so they show you this big weird looking face of his, and then they pan over to him, and
it's like a funhouse mirror, and he's doing something, and then he brings that. I don't know. Was he supposed to be looking through a magnifying glass or something? But then he brings that cup of whatever that is and drinks it and gets this evil. Yeah. I don't know don't know what it was. Never tell us why he's just showing us how weird he is, I guess.
He's evil.
I'll use this on puppies later.
Yes.
And speaking of exaggerated faces and this and that, there was a lot of, if you look at the top picture there, it's just overly exaggerated features and pointy ears and that kind of thing. A lot of that at the time, and especially as far as comic books go, around the time of World War II and this and that, most of the Asian characters were drawn in this type of manner with overly exaggerated teeth and ears, but it was to convey the fact that they were evil and they were the bad guys, and so I think that's kind of where this look comes from, because in a lot of the comics and stuff and a lot of the artwork that I've seen, that Fu Manchu isn't portrayed as this over the top. The look anyway.
Well, there was definitely that way of making the other seem even more evil and not it's not like us at all,
propaganda,
that kind of a thing. Yeah.
But he's a super villain. I guess he's supposed to be over the top and
over the top. Yeah. And I kind of took that as part of the. I'm not very learned in like the older adventure serials and stuff, but I mean, it makes me think of kind of where I can imagine Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of comes from, and that the long history of those kind of things where people were over the top and the characters were it was just almost too much, like
well,
fairy tale like or something.
A lot of those old serials, the villain sold the cereal. They all had these over the top bad guys that either they had these gigantic robot heads or something weird was going on,
or totally crazy costumes. I think of some of the insane costume, like giant costume type things.
But the costuming in this I thought was beautiful too.
It really is.
It was just
beautiful.
Just so good. Especially Myrna Loy's outfits she had on. I think she had like 2 lines in the whole movie. It seemed like she hardly had any lines, but
she didn't have very many. This is her.
That's beautiful. Well, even like the clothes and the costumes that the archaeologist wore, it's like, I want to know what those are really. Did they really wear those things out in the wild? It's like, I thought that was really awesome too, and I liked his daughter, that she was kind of wearing the same. I mean, she had sometimes more of like a suit or whatever, but when she was out in the field, she had that kind of thing too, and I thought those were really great too. I thought the set design was really cool, and I love some of the scenes outside, like when they were digging up the sword and it was rainy, and you could tell how muddy the dirt was, and you know, I thought it looked really. It was just really fun to look at too.
Yeah, the clothes that Charles Starrett had on there were reminiscent to me of the character Doc Savage. The aviator pants and the knee-high boots and the torn shirts and everything like that. Just reminded me of
jodhpurs. Is that what those are? Is that what those
the
are
pants
called?
I think
I always called them aviator pants because it seemed like all aviators wore those, but
wore them too.
The puffy thighs that came out. But I thought he looked cool at the end because I was going, he could be Doc Savage. I'm a big Doc Savage fan. So,
well, in this bottom picture too, we've got Lewis Stone, who plays her father. I think it was his name, Nayland Smith. And
I think Nayland Smith wasn't his. Oh wait,
Sir Dennis
her
Nayland.
father? Oh, okay. I thought it was.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yep. He was the. You're right. Lewis Stone and Nayland Smith were the emissary of the British government. Her father was the guy that unwisely went to meet with Fu Manchu, apparently. Or was he? And
big dummy.
Didn't go well.
Yeah.
And then they dumped him on the doorstep, dead, with the print of a dragon on his forehead.
I was surprised that he was dead. I mean, it kind of goes with the pre-code stuff of it. You know, it's like I'm just blown away with some of the, you know, that he was dead, the sexuality in it, the that's the way that they talked and everything. I really was actually surprised when he was dead. I thought maybe, he just got knocked out or something, but no, he was dead. Here. They killed him.
Yeah, so he was Sir Lionel Barton was played by Lawrence Grant, and after he doesn't come back, then his daughter Sheila Barton, played by Kieran Morley, tries to convince her her boyfriend, and I never did know his name, I guess Terry, she kept calling him Terry, played by Charles Starrett, who she convinces him that he needs to go and try to get her father, even though Sir Dennis Nayland told him, don't leave, don't anybody leave, and then she lies and says she doesn't know where he is. So getting ready to hatch the plot there, and then at some point they have to go after him because he does come back.
He came back all right.
Yeah, Terry
he does. And then he convinces them to go with him to go back, and then he turns into the laughing hyena up on the stone. They get captured. Oh God!
They better be glad I wasn't in this movie, because if I was her dad, I'd have lasted maybe 10 minutes under that bell, and I'd have been going, here's the keys. It's in the trunk of the Volkswagen on the third parking lot past the handicap.
What was her
plate 010?
Yeah.
Who did the little mummies in the tomb grab?
I think that's when they grabbed her dad. Yeah.
They did grab her father.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was not expecting that. That was that took me back to seeing those mummies. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
What's happening here?
Well, they had that in all of those old ghost movies. They always had the picture with the eyes, Well, in this one, it was the sarcophagus with the eyes. Following them.
They were very committed, though. They got all in their little mummy costume. And
I know.
They were. They looked almost as good as Abbott and Costello meet the mummy suit.
Yeah, there was a huge tear in one of them. I think I remember seeing.
Yeah,
pretty big gaps. Yeah,
there were some zippers and gaps going on there.
Or maybe they figured, we've got to show Boris Karloff we can do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this was right before the mummy, so yeah, it was sort of a sign of things to come.
That's nice. Yes. Wow.
My
See, I didn't
next
even
film
know
is
that.
going to be about mummies. Oh, really? Get some mummy costumes on them guys.
Yeah.
But he shows back up. Terry, Charles Sterrett, shows back up after he's been dosed with the interesting serum and does whatever Fu Manchu tells him to. Right? That's what he's supposed to be doing. And acting just weirder than heck. And for some reason, the only one that noticed it is his girlfriend. She was
We should mention the serum. It was a snake. That they
Yeah,
had
snake lizard or something.
something they had bite the guy,
Yeah.
and then they drew blood from the snake venom bite, and then injected it into Charles Sterrett.
It was so weird.
And
Wasn't there also like a scorpion or a spider or something? That
Yeah, there was a
Yeah,
spider.
there was a spider.
Jumped out of
Tarantula or
it.
something.
Meanwhile, the
weird.
guy just falls on the floor, and that's it.
Well,
you know?
I'm
there
done.
was a Gila monster too, which I don't know.
Oh
if
yeah.
there's Gila monsters in the Gobi Desert or not. But,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they had all these supposedly poisonous things in these glass bowls that obviously weren't going to hold them.
Yeah,
all those snakes and stuff. That's right. There was a definite process.
I guess they wanted to make sure nobody else tried to copy the serum. Well, we have to kill somebody. And I'm not finding Gila monsters anywhere on Amazon.com. No Saturday shipping.
We have to wait till Monday. Okay.
And I wish I could have found a picture of this, but despite the fact that Terry's acting really weird, Nayland and Sheila go with him and take the sword and the mask, along with Dr. Von Berg, go back to Fu Manchu, and they're supposedly going to trade him for it, I guess. And somewhere along the line, the what is that thing they're riding in? Was that like I guess it was a wagon, but it was a very strange wagon. Anyway, they get hijacked, and Terry ends up standing up on a rock in the rain, laughing maniacally. I just thought it was great. And then the top picture here is after they show up. Dr. Fu Manchu, then I don't know, he's going to use Sheila for a sacrifice of some kind to I don't know, what was with that statue that handed him the sword?
I think that was Genghis Khan or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I kept thinking I was going to see one of those slaves behind him with his arm up inside his hand or something. But
the scene.
Another piece that's very kind of politically incorrect, but a sign of the times, is it's like he had this crew of Nubian slaves, that walked around in loincloths and mostly just stood in the background or died when they needed some serum.
Right.
So
the photo you have on top there, first of all, I love that gown that she's wearing. But this reminded me a lot of Big Trouble in Little China, when the two women are they're kind of hypnotized and they're standing there. That just kind of made me think about that. And I couldn't tell at first. I thought she was like, that maybe he had her under a spell or hypnotized, because the way she was talking. And then she just started kind of talking a little bit more like she was aware, but
she just wasn't giving him the satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. That's what was going on. He wasn't going to react for him.
Yeah.
So the cinematographer for this was Tony Gaudio, and he had won an Oscar and been nominated 4 times. He was actually, a cinematographer. So I pulled out a couple of these pictures are just sort of like, to me, like just really well constructed shots. And both of these have, the one on top has Myrna Loy in the middle with this huge fancy, I don't know, like princess gown and headdress, and all these people around her.
Yeah.
Big statue in the background. And the one below is after Starrett has been injected, I think. I don't know. He's laying on this, first they whip him. I forgot about that. And
which the one guy really liked a lot.
Yeah.
Well, she did too, actually.
Yeah.
That top picture, she was like, faster,
Again.
faster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
faster. Yeah.
Well, I think that was one of the things that got cut at some point.
Oh, okay. The whipping or
her reaction, her excitement, her other
kind of seems like a code thing, right?
Yeah. One thing I appreciated about her character was that at first I wasn't sure if she was like just gonna fall in love with him and then try and save him, but it's like no, she was bad too,
love him and leave him.
Just until she
trash
got
comes
bored,
on Tuesday, be there.
Well, I like what her father says. Before you get to the end of your process, I need to
your usual
something. Your usual ending. Like, so a couple of you talked about. I call that actually the Batman connection. That's what I was thinking of. The traps they had.
Oh yeah.
Like we never just kill anybody. We put them in a long drawn out situation that they could escape from.
You stay right there. Don't go through that little hole underneath there. Don't crawl through.
And I forget what he called that, the room of the long, slender fingers or something like that. It was, so that's Gene Herschel.
It's to bring up Big Trouble in Little China again. They had a name for every hell that.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you in the hell of long, sharp fingers.
Well, and this is the alligator one. So
no, this is the hell of short sliding board, playground sliding board.
Yes. This was pretty creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course this huge thing of sand that has to slowly drain out.
I almost lost it. Well, one point he looks back like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Was it like the thing like went down real jerkily, and he kind of looked back and was like, "Come on, give me a break."
Yeah. So there's the top picture is this, for lack of a better term, a seesaw contraption, and at the one end of it is a hopper with sand in it that's draining out the bottom, and at the other end, as his head's lowered, he's going into a pit of alligators. I love when the one alligator comes up. It looked real. They were real.
The ones he was running across to get out, I know those were real.
Yeah. So he gets it. That's what I thought. This is kind of an interesting.
They must have been pumped full of that serum.
It could be. He gets himself loose and runs out of the room.
Climbs up the wall.
Yeah.
I loved it though. It was so good.
It was me. I'd have been running up the wall.
So there's Terry getting the mask out of the tomb.
Hurry up, Terry.
Boris Karloff coveting the sword of Genghis Khan. Oh, I got one. You know, there was that point where he was holding a gun on Nylon. Nylon comes walking. When he gets out of the alligator pit, he comes walking through that place where there's the snakes and stuff, and then he, and then Fu Manchu is standing back around the corner, and he's got a gun, and I'm thinking, how long did it take him to get his trigger finger through that trigger guard? Because he had these 6-inch nails on his two fingers. I'm just picturing. I don't know.
He probably had servants to help him do that.
Anyway,
I did like that scene too. The way that the light kind of came up, and exposing Boris Karloff as being there in the corner. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. When you first see it, you can't tell if it's like maybe a statue or you see a dark shape, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Was this at this point the fake sword in that bottom picture from before?
That might be after he's got the right one. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Now the top picture here is, I tried like heck to find a shot of that Kenneth Strickfaden
machine.
Sparking cool. With the sword, but they weren't very good. And then these are slightly out of order. The one, so he turns his machine on and it's sparking all over with is that the Van de Graaff generator or Tesla coil, maybe?
Tesla coil.
And then he sticks his finger into it and it starts arcing with his finger, and then he takes it down to the sword. Right?
Yeah.
That was cool. That was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I love that scene too. And then when I found out that it was Strickfaden, it was like the same kind of the same stuff. I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And I love the theatrics of it, the way he was like spinning it around and stuff. It just kind of made this whole kind of just over the top story even more. I can totally see it as a comic now that you had talked about it a little bit. It definitely has that feel like that to it.
Comic or serial, some of these were serials too, I think. So the bottom picture is here I should switch. So he's getting ready to kill Sheila. She's on the sacrificial table, and the statue of Genghis Khan, or the spirit or whatever it is, has handed him the sword, and he's holding it up, making a big show, and he's getting ready to bring it down. And then these guys show up and start shooting the photon cannon or something. Photon torpedo.
Don't cross the streams, whatever you do.
That's just great. That's just awesome. And they just, sooner or later, everybody downstairs they're shooting it down through the trap.
Stop shooting at people! Shooting around people!
It just lays them out,
Oh my gosh.
I just loved it. I said, holy cow, where did that come from? Just one of those things Fu Manchu had laying around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the attic, I guess.
It came in handy.
So then that's when
smells like barbecue in here.
Really. In the bottom picture, then Terry comes running out and grabs a sword from Fu Manchu and does him in, I guess. Only we know that's not true because there's tons more movies. Takes a big swipe at him with that scimitar. So I also threw this up as just kind of the cinematography too. There's just a lot of cool sets and shadows and stuff. So
yeah. I kind of chuckled a little bit on the top scene when he was just sitting there in front of this totally open window, no one there to help him. Someone just swings by and throws a knife at him and kills him. It's like, close the window or something, you know what I mean?
It shoots him before he dies, right?
Right, yeah. So they end up killing each other, but it's just kind of like he's just sitting there in front of this giant window.
Well, I loved how the guy climbs the tree outside and then this is right out of like Mission Impossible. He shoots a cable across to the building and then slides down it.
Which makes a tremendous noise.
No, exactly.
Clangity, clang, clang, clang. And
the guy's like,
what was that?
Twisting around, gesticulation. Somebody said, don't just slide. That's not good cinema. Put your arms around.
Oh, that's right.
That's strange. I heard a clangity, clang, clang, clang coming from the
room. Definitely a clangity clang happening.
Yeah, so, the knife right in the back.
That was great.
There was another, I remember another scene when he was, I don't remember who it was, but someone was running up this long staircase that definitely reminded me of like Frankenstein, Universal Monsters type thing. There's this massive empty room with this huge staircase, and he was running up. Yeah, with the shadows and everything. Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
So yeah, so Kenneth Stickfadden also played. He was a stand-in for Boris Karloff during those scenes with the arcing.
So cool.
Boris, his mama didn't raise no dummy. I said, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Well, these are some pretty good actors, though. I mean, Louis Stone was in The Lost World in 1925.
Oh, wow.
The old British guy. And he also played Judge Hardy in the Andy Hardy movies. He was Andy Hardy's dad in all those Mickey Rooney movies. And apparently he had a really long association or contract, the longest contract with one studio, 29 years with MGM.
Oh, cool.
So he's a guy that's really recognizable, and I was trying to figure out where I recognize him. So when I looked at his credits, I'm pretty sure it's from the Andy Hardy movies. He's always sitting in a chair wearing a suit, reading the paper, and then Andy has some crisis. He also did a lot of movies with Greta Garbo, and was in 4 Best Picture Oscar nominees. So yeah, he was believable as a British bureaucracy.
I definitely recognized him, but I didn't know what he was in.
So what about Kieran Morley as Sheila? How did she do?
Well, I thought she did a great job. She was kind of low-key in charge, you know, of getting stuff done around there. And she, when her dad was missing, she wanted to go look for her dad, you know, and that's something you can understand and get behind. And so she had a good motivation, but she did a great job. I really liked her character.
I thought it would, and she knew where the tomb was. So she was trained, at least in some, you know, was trained and smart and knew what she was doing. Yeah, I liked her too.
Yeah, she, like, even with that interaction, when you guys were saying, like, if there was some kind of trance or something, there were moments when I wasn't sure if I could really read her, or was she just sort of keeping her time, like not knowing, not about the time, but more like keeping her reactions just to a minimum, just to get things done the way she really needed to.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to have a plan in her head. Maybe she, you know, would react out of feeling and emotion, but I don't know. I just felt like she definitely had a brain, and she, you know, was in there and looking for a dad and stuff. She was a really bad liar, or maybe she was a good actress being a bad liar. But yeah.
I don't have any idea where Terry is.
And I guess that would probably explain why she kept her, you know, words and reactions to a minimum, because you just made me think of that.
She just didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought if they'd have listened to her, when the possessed Terry showed up, they would have been a lot better prepared for what was to come. But she was in Scarface, the one from 1932, with Paul Mooney and Mata Hari. 1931. But she's one of those people that got nailed when, well, first off, her career kind of took a dive because she married Charles Vidor, who was the original director on this movie. They got fired after a few days. She married him, and I don't know, this I'm not sure this makes any sense, but they didn't really like that. They didn't want her starting a family. So MGM, I don't know. But in 1947, she testified in front of the House Committee on Un-American Activities and refused to answer questions. And you know, when they say refused to answer questions, what I remember the questions being, and the stuff that I've read is, you know, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And then name names, name people
names.
you know.
Mhm.
So it really kind of comes down to naming names. So she refused to do that. So if you look at her credits, she ends up being in some TV things later on, but pretty much done with movies. And I don't know, that always kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of too many people who were active anti-American communists. You know, they just got nailed because they had some principles and wouldn't turn people in that they didn't think had done anything wrong. Charles Starrett is an interesting guy. How did he do in this movie as the boyfriend?
He was an idiot.
Yeah. He tried.
Bless his heart, as they say around here.
But he
When
dressed like Doc
somebody's
Savage.
dumb but means well, everybody around here says, "Bless his heart."
But he dressed like Doc Savage.
Yeah, he did dress like Doc Savage. That's his one saving grace.
Kind of looked like Doc Savage when he was on top of that rock laughing, except for the laughing part, you know, flexing his muscles in the rain.
Oh my gosh.
He seemed a little over dramatic sometimes, I thought. But.
I think he was that character that was like the innocent beefcake guy, you know, that I feel like I've seen that character in a few of our movies where I don't know if he just represents like the innocent, you know, guy or something, but yeah, he definitely
he was just stupid.
Well,
okay, just stupid.
I think he was under control of Sheila's serum beforehand.
Yeah.
He just kind of, no, I'm not going to do that. You have to go help my father. Okay.
Okay.
You know?
Okay then. Back in the car.
1933, he was one of the people that helped start the Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, wow.
I liked him in Durango Kid. My dad.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's just crazy. I got to go back and look for some of those because I don't, as many as there are, I started counting in his credits of the movies he played Durango Kid in. There's over 60.
Wow.
from he signed with Columbia in 36, and then for 16 years was in 115 westerns. Yeah, so 115 westerns, 16 years. Says he was one of the top 10 western stars in the 40s. And you mentioned the Durango Kid. Yeah, over 60 of those. And then at some point it says he was always called Steve something or another in all these westerns.
Yeah.
So I looked, in the ones that weren't Durango Kid, there was another 25 where his name was Steve.
Well, that's just the average. That's just a playing the odds right there because there's so many movies.
It's like the old Monty Python skit, you know. Your name will be Travis. Can't you just call me Steve? Be a lot less confusing. But yeah, that's a guy that got a great career, really. You know, I don't really know that much about. And then Myrna Loy she actually organized opposition to the House Un-American Activities Committee. So good for her. So apparently it didn't look like that much, but apparently this makeup on Karloff took, what did it say? Hour and a half?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
That's insane. I would think that it would take a little bit longer, but typically most makeups they would need to take 2 hours. No more than that. But that was, gosh, I was just amazed by that look. I'm speechless. A lot of this left me speechless.
Yeah. Well, and you can't tell quite as much. In fact, I saw a quote from Myrna Loy where she said that early in her career, she played a lot of, she called them exotic women because of her shape of her eyes. And some of the shots,
her makeup was a little more subtle than Karloff's anyway.
Yeah, I think hers. There was a lot going on with the brow, and then the hairline. You could see in some of the shots where you could see it was painted a certain way in the hairline to obviously get that color, and with the brows and how to emphasize the eyeliner. So I could, that was definitely more subtle, but his look is just
his eyeliner
I can't find the word. It's on fleek. Yes. Yeah. It's definitely what the kids say, or kids say. It was like, it's on fleek. It's all that. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
You're making fun of me.
I just found out 2 days ago. So.
On fleek. Yeah, me too.
Well, so there's tons of little pieces of trivia, I think, about these people that are kind of interesting. That the director, Charles Brabin, he had 122 credits in IMDb, but only 13 of them were released 1930 or later. So he was cranking out silent films like crazy in the teens and the 20s. Also, one crossover, one of the screenplay writers, Edgar Allan Wolff, was also a co-writer on The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's
and
so cool.
was a uncredited contributing writer to Mad Love with Peter Lorre.
Oh wow!
1935. And the other screenwriter, John Willard, or one of the other ones, he also wrote the play that The Cat and the Canary was based on, which was a 1927 silent film we did an episode on a while back.
Edgar Allan Wolff, what an awesome name, and what awesome credits.
I want to change my name to that. I've only got 2 syllables in my whole name, so I want a name like Edgar Allan Wolff.
Yeah. So I was also kind of looking to see how many, this trend of Caucasians playing Asian characters, and I looked up Fu Manchu, and it's pretty bad. It goes all the way on up to like 1980. Peter Sellers played him in the comedy. Warner Olin played him a couple times, and in the ones that he was in, they were directed by Roland V. Lee, the guy we just talked about for Son of Frankenstein, the director of Son of Frankenstein. Christopher Lee was in 5 in the 60s. 2 of them were directed by Don Sharp, who I know we've done a couple movies on him in the 70s or maybe even in the 60s, but the one I can think of off the top of my head is Psychomania. And 2 of them were directed by Jess Franco, which is really bizarre. And then other people I don't know the names of. There was a TV series in 1956 starring Glenn Gordon as Fu Manchu. John Carradine played Fu Manchu in something. And there was some serials, so it was not unusual. Not saying it's right. I'm just all the way up. And when I was looking at some of that information, I thought I read there was like a quota that no more than 150,000 people of color could be given immigration permission up through like 1964. And at least in the thing I read, they said the reason was they didn't want to dilute the homogeneity.
Yeah.
And then they got rid of that rule, and then like 64, 65, different legislation. But it's weird to think about going through history and not, I didn't know anything about that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
What was going on.
And it's kind of, I mean, in some ways it still continues, not necessarily where a Caucasian or white person would play a person of color, but like with makeup or something, but characters that are supposed to be Asian or Hispanic or some person of color is played by, that character becomes Caucasian instead of having an actor who is Asian to play an Asian role. So it still kind of happens.
Yeah.
That or being placed in the stereotype.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Well,
it's
interesting.
So it was weird to hear. I mean, not weird, but because it's how it is. But just like you're talking about the yellow fear and just so many things you still kind of see in some ways of making people afraid. Like they're going to come and take over everything and steal your women, and they know Sheila's here. They're going to come get Sheila. I mean, it's just like, yeah, that's
When I looked up Yellow Peril, there was a political cartoon there of a Asian guy with looking really mean and nasty, and I think he had a knife in one hand. I forget what he had in the other hand, and he's straddling an obviously white woman who's laying on the ground, and it says Yellow Peril on him. I'm just like, it is. It's like it's fear of the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of that going on right now, a lot.
Yeah.
So that's my political commentary for the day. No comments.
Yeah. I only mentioned colonialism once in this episode, so.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hey, don't worry about it.
I'm not.
It's history, and that's when the movie was made. And we're not saying
that's what the
that
movie,
we should.
Yeah.
We're not talking about censorship.
I think it's. I think it's. There's people that would watch this and they would wish that it would disappear, or cancel it, or. But I think it's like Daphne touched on earlier. This. We have to remember stuff like this.
Yeah.
As bad as some of it might be, we have to. If you erase it, then people.
What
forget.
do we learn from?
And we've learned nothing from it. Like it didn't exist, and it did exist. It's a way of teaching ourselves. Don't do this again. Don't do this anymore. Don't do it again. But at the same time, we look at a lot of things in these podcasts that aren't correct by today's standards, but can still be looked at as entertainment. It just shows, because that's one of the things you do when you watch it. You go, wow, we've come a long way since that. And I think that's important that we sort of do that, because like you said, we haven't learned anything by just erasing films or erasing things like this.
Doing this with you guys, it's learning history through horror. And that's why I appreciate doing this kind of thing with you guys when I can, when we have these moments and having these conversations. And that's why these conversations are important for a topic like this film in particular.
Yeah.
But we still have not learned to not set up ridiculous traps for our victims.
Yeah.
We can't seem to get that.
There's fat shaming in here. I think the one guy with the wall closing in like this, they thought it would be more believable if the fat guy was sitting there, because no one will believe a skinny guy was going to get speared by all these. It was in the trivia.
I saw that. I saw that. It was
know.
supposed to be the other way around. He was supposed to be the alligator. I thought.
Yeah, and it was more plausible for the fat guy to get speared by.
And he wasn't really fat. I mean,
he was
big
round. He was round. He was firm.
Certain
He was
size.
fat.
He was round. He was firm.
But this movie has lots of things going for it. If you can
Yes.
get
Yeah.
past the stereotypes and
Mm-hmm.
the fear of the yellow peril thing, and just
Mhm.
look at the like you said, the traps, the electric cannon, and the sparks for the sword, and all that whole thing was I just thought that was great. And I tried like heck to find pictures of that. When they went into the tomb, there was a double set of doors. When they got the sword and the mask from Genghis Khan's tomb, there was a double set of doors that were just really cool and ornate.
Mhm. Yes.
The first set had these, I think it was two women standing there,
Mhm.
partially nude, but with kind of, I don't know, in no real looks on their face. But when they went into the next one, it was these snarling things
Mhm.
in solid gold. I tried to find pictures of those because I thought, wow, that is really cool. But anyway.
And then I loved in that scene when they come into the tomb and they're mad, and the people run in to worship the I guess it's Genghis Khan's tomb, and they start shooting their guns up up on the ceiling of this tomb. Like, you're an idiot. Don't do that.
Well, and
That would have been another good little China moment if the rocks that came down and just knocked
Exactly.
them all out. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
well, also the fact that when I found out Kenneth Strickfaden had done that stuff, then I was like all in for that too. That's
That
pretty
is
cool.
super neat.
That
was so cool.
That's even more elaborate than the stuff in Frankenstein, to actually have running that off his finger and stuff. Yeah.
And it's just so cool to have it as part of this horror history, that this connection, this using the same tool again, I just think is so neat.
Yeah. Well, they use Strickfaden stuff in a lot of horror movies. Some of it was the same stuff from Frankenstein.
Oh, really?
In a few movies, yeah.
Well, I knew about the one from Young Frankenstein, but I didn't know about any other ones. So that's really cool.
Neither.
Yeah, they reused that a lot. The same equipment, I think.
And the fact that
I
Strickfaden
think they
played
used some of it in Blackenstein, didn't they?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I think so.
I wouldn't recommend watching that.
No.
That's one of the,
I feel like I remember you guys talking about it on the 70s.
Yeah.
Or not wanting to talk about it or something.
The only interesting I found out about that, and I don't remember the guy's name, but the actor that plays Dr. Frankenstein replaced Clayton Moore as the Lone Ranger for like 1 year while he was in contract. He was on strike and contract negotiations.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember his name now, but if you look him up, he was in he played the Lone Ranger and a bunch of stuff. All right. I think we're done.
His name was Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Oh, that's right.
I have one more thing about costumes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
asked me about it earlier. So
Yeah.
gowns by Adrian. Adrian is the costumer. Goes gowns by Adrian. But as we were looking at Wizard of Oz, he designed the ruby slippers.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I just
That
saw
was
that.
cool.
Yep.
That is very cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I don't know if it's strange or coincidental, but Sax Rohmer died of the Asian flu.
They still call it that?
Ooh.
In 1950, whatever it was, yeah. It was H2N2.
No,
I mean-
his last words were, "I knew it."
All right.
Oh my goodness.
That's it for this episode, Grue Believers. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up, chosen by Jeff is, and I remembered what one I was looking at, War of the Worlds from 1953.
Cool.
Nice.
Nice.
I was adding another one, and the other one I was looking at wasn't available. So, War of the Worlds. So people want to get ready for that. It's on Prime right now. Who knows how long it will be? It'll probably drop off May 1st, so then we won't be able to do it.
It's like I wish they would go in. Amazon would go ahead and put likes on our podcast, because it seems like they watch us closely of what we're going to pick next and then delete it off.
And then delete, yeah. Well,
Oh God.
everybody, please like, subscribe, hit the alerts, make comments. We love comments. And once again, I ran out of time on comments.
Share with your friends.
Tell your mama.
Yeah. Tell your mama I said, listen to this podcast.
Oh, dear.
Oh boy.
Tell her.
Good. I needed that, Whitney. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the classic era. As only decades of horror can do it. Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.